Now we got to talk politics for a minute because I've got a bone to pick with incoming President Donald Trump. Trump just announced his new labor secretary, and liberals are cheering for her nomination, which should be a red flag. As recent reports, Trump has nominated Representative Lori Chavez de Remer, a moderate Republican, to be his labor secretary, his secretary for the Department of Labor. She's a moderate Republican, and I don't have anything against her in general, but in particular on this issue, her views on labor and employment policies are in almost complete accordance with Democrats, not Republicans. And she's being applauded and cheered on by some of the most toxic unions in the country. Let me explain all of this and why I find her nomination really concerning. Chavez de Remer, her selection, is being praised by teachers' unions, including the infamous Randy Weingarten, the head of the biggest teachers' union in America. If you're a Republican, a moderate, an independent, a libertarian, or anybody who's not like a hardcore progressive Democrat, that should be a red flag. Teachers' unions fought against the science to keep schools closed during the pandemic far longer than they ever needed to be or was ever reasonable as a precautionary measure. They fight vociferously against school choice policies that almost all Republicans and tons of moderates and independents want and support. But this Republican labor nominee is being praised by teachers' unions. That's a massive red flag. But it turns out that Chavez de Remer is something of a union Republican, something I didn't even really know existed, not in that she stands up for workers like many people on the right do, but in that she enacts policies and supports policies that would please union bosses and in some cases screw over workers or deprive them of their rights. For example, the Congresswoman has supported legislation that would overrule state-level right-to-work laws, which all those laws say is that you can't be forced to join a union or fund a union as a condition of your employment. They protect workers' freedom of association and stop unions from forcibly extracting money from workers who want nothing to do with them. This is a typical Republican position that right to work is a good thing, and states with right to work laws tend to have lower unemployment rates because it's a business-friendly policy as well, and it draws investment and increased employment, and of course it just protects workers' rights, so they're not forced to fund unions, which are ideological and often donate to Democrats against their will. That's common sense, freedom, free market policy 101, but this Republican Congresswoman who Trump is considering for labor secretary is against it and wants those policies overruled. That might please union bosses because they like forcing people to fund and join their unions, but it's not in the best interest of the American worker at all. Chavez de Remer also has supported the PRO Act, which is a piece of legislation the Biden administration and Democrats have pushed at the federal level, which closely mirrors the policies of California's infamous legislation restricting freelance work and trying to force companies to add people as full-time employees. If this legislation was enacted, it would be devastating for freelancers who advocated and campaigned against California's legislation like crazy. Even people like me would be screwed over because our ability to be independent and pick our own hours and write for different places as we wish without regular schedules or contracts or being employees on staff, all of that would be undermined by our forced reclassification. But of course, it would be great for union bosses because forcing more people into traditional 9-to-5s with the confinements and restricting freelance independent workers means more people will be in union jobs paying union dues that go ultimately to union bosses. So this pick is very concerning to me because it sends the totally wrong message about a Trump administration's potential economic policy. Part of what made the economy strong during Trump's first term was that he enacted traditional conservative free market economic policies for the most part. Embracing this kind of Democrat, pro-labor union, crony agenda wouldn't be a return to the same prosperity that many Americans voted for. It would be a continuation of the Biden approach to labor and labor unions, which is not what Trump supporters asked for. I hope Trump reconsiders this nomination, and if he doesn't, that the Senate sinks it. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below.